Good morning, good people of a great nation. It's a pleasure to be on this show this January 19, 2022. Like I said when we opened studio at 7, I did say that today we'll be looking first at the economy. We'll be doing a kind of forecasting of Nigeria's economy. Right now, you know, a lot of people are making predictions about AFCON, Africa, about the, what's it called? AFCON, African football, going on in Cameroon. A lot of people are predicting how many goals will Nigeria use to defeat Guinea-Bissau later today and all of that. But we are going to be forecasting on the economy and looking at the challenges Nigeria economy is likely going to have in 2022, as well as what are the prospects. Prospects being what are those positive things we can look at and what will, if we do certain things, what are the likely outcomes. So I've brought an expert, an economist of repute, a stockbroker, and MD of a company to come and help us break this into a very meaningful, to make a sense of what we should look at in 2022, from the budget to all the IMF, World Bank forecast on Nigeria, the issue of inflation, Greek, and all of that. So I don't want to waste much of our time. Let me go straight to welcoming my guest, Steve Nwachukwu, to the show. You're welcome, Steve.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you join us on. I almost said Prince. I hope you are a Prince, because I think because after Prince after him we will be having a princess. So I was almost saying Prince Steve Nwachukwu, but everything is in order.
I think it's a day of prediction or prophecy.
I think so. So Steve, you are welcome on the show.
Thanks once again for having me.
This is your first time.
Yes.
So give us an overview of Nigeria's economy. Where are we before we look at the crystal ball about 2022?
Okay, I think let me start it from this point that Nigeria, as one of the developing nations, have its own peculiar issues regarding to economy. And having been a consuming nation in the sense that we are just a mono economy, we only focus on our source of income is only subject to that crude, that crude oil. So it makes it more like to manage our economy takes a lot of expertise, it takes a lot of wisdom to run it because we've not really diversified. So looking at it from the point that 2019 we had COVID now, so though 2020, but I don't know why they keep using the word 2019 because it never came down to us.
But it was discovered in 2019.
Yeah, so that's by the way. So in 2020 we had an economy that was being, forced to a lockdown, restriction, and it slows down production. That was why our GDP contracted. And late the same 2020, we kind of recovered and pulled down to the 2021, we fully recovered. So it's more like we are trying to get out of the COVID period or get out of most of the economic realities. When I use the word that we are mono economy, our economy will actually contracted, or business or inflows of resources actually shocking because of that sales of crude. You recall what happened in 2020 and late 20 and early 2021. The price of crude oil went as low as $27 to $30 in international market price. So it actually affected the income of Nigeria. Like I said, when I said Nigeria is a mono economy, means that the resources proceed from crude oil actually engineered all the activities within other sectors in the economy. If the oil dries today, it means that there will be less to spend and less will be available within the economic space. So that was the situation we found ourselves in.
But the Buhari administration has continually told us that they've been diversifying the economy. You think they are lying to us, or that the success is not something to write home about?
Well, I think I won't say they are absolutely lying, because they may be doing one or two things in their own sense that they are really actually diversifying, but have they really fully diversified the economy enough to have earned resources from other sectors? The answer is no. But are they lying? I won't say they are lying. They may be doing one or two things that actually seems
they are not
like
lying, but they are economical with the truth.
Exactly.
Anyway, okay, let's look at, let's even premise, you have told us impact of COVID. Yes. Is it only COVID that has impacted negatively on our economy?
Why I actually narrowed down to the COVID is because of that proceed we get from crude. If you have more, all about the economy is your budget. If you have more to spend, if you have more resources available to you, it will trigger all that. That's what we call multiplier effect. When you spend on road, it has other multipliers based on those who work, those artisans that will work on those roads, and those laborers, down to those who manufacture those equipments and material that will be used to build those roads. So that's the multiplier effect. So when government spends, and because government is the largest spender, if it spends well and it touches to the down of the economy, it means that it will trigger other businesses or trigger other growth that will generate more revenue for government. So it actually boils down to government. That's why we continue to beg on the government to have good people who will drive out good policies, who will come up with very genuine policies that will stimulate the economy and get us kicking.
Okay, so let's look at the budget 2022. From 16 trillion, the National Assembly decided to to increase it by 735 billion to 17 trillion. And people are still saying, one, the size of our budget is still as huge as it seems, that the real purchasing power parity does not show, when you look at the per capita income, our budget is still very low.
Yes, it's still very low because of the population.
Vis-a-vis the population, but that is not even where I'm going.
Okay.
Where I'm going is, you talked about impact of COVID-19 on revenue generation. And today, we are still impacted negatively by COVID-19. Some offices are just resuming level 12 to 1. I've just been called back to work maybe this January, since about 2020.
Yeah.
Now, do you think National Assembly did well by increasing the size of the budget from 16 to 17 trillion, adding another 735 billion to the budget, and also inserting over 6,000 new projects that are not designed, and that the president said could have been best handled by state and local government? Do you think the National Assembly did well?
Mr. Jide, let me be sincere to you. This argument is neither here nor there. For those who believe, or those schools of thought who believe that the National Assembly did what it's right, and for those who also said, no, you shouldn't have inserted projects, let me see it from the both sides. There
okay, you are the expert.
Yeah. When the National Assembly argues that, yes, we did what we did because we have the constitutional responsibility or powers to do it, I agree with them. They have the powers to make laws. And to make laws, including both laws of that nature, which is appropriation law, appropriation bill, and any other law. They have the powers to make law, to tinker with whatever clause available you submitted. So the executive has the powers to execute those projects or execute that bill, which is the law, appropriation law. In that sense, executive have proposed, we want to do this, do this, do this, do that. And because the power to appropriate, the power to actually fix those clause by clause, line by line, item by item, figure by figure, relies or rests on the National Assembly. Now they can say, yes, I have powers to think out what project you think. Now, coming to the issue, if what they did is right, some of them argue that there is near visible project, near visible impact of the executive in their constituencies. Having in mind this is an election year. Build up to election, they will return to their constituents, they will want to do some empowerment program, they want to do some whatever extension or whatever, just to touch the life of the people so that they can gain their trust or gain their mandate again. So it's an election year. They are trying to use that reserve power of making laws to actually attract projects that will touch in the lives of their community. Now the question is, where is the moral ground to have inserted such mini projects of 5 million, 2 million that federal government should not be seen doing it? This is where the issue is. They have no such kind of moral grounds to do projects of 2 million, 5 million, 50 million. Federal government should not be seen doing a project of 2 million. Project of buying bicycle, buying motorcycle, or even buying hairdressing equipments and all generators. Federal government should not be seen doing such program. This is where the issue is. The moral ground to have used the power you have to make laws, and now you are not taking advantage of it to insert projects that are meaningless. And one thing about it also, statistics have also proven that 70% or 80% of such projects they inserted ends up in private box. All those projects ends up in their private box. By the time they do, take for instance, they take one agency, consult with the MD or consult with the executive secretary or executive director that I want to do this, I want to do empowerment, I want to buy this. At the end of the day, nobody takes stocks of the volumes of quantity or projects of that nature, and they will end up sharing those money.
So you are imputing corruption into the whole exercise.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, even let's assume, ICPC report on constituency projects has been very damning on the National Assembly, federal lawmakers, that many of these projects, like you rightly pointed out, either are wrongfully executed, poorly executed, or abandoned at the best, or even the proceeds were just disappeared and no traces. And I recall that the president said the honestness when, I think it was last year or 2020, when he said over 10 trillion has been spent on constituency projects in the last 10 years or 7 years.
And you cannot
find them. So it has become a drain pipe.
Exactly.
And I think that's the reservation many people have. And then Professor Isesage, the president or the chairman of the Presidential Advisory Committee on Anti-Corruption, said while the National Assembly can alter the appropriation law or bill, but it cannot insert projects that were not ab initio included by the executive. That while they can move things around, they can reduce and increase, but not to, because like you want, the danger of inserting projects is that where is the project design?
Okay, let me respond from this point. I think, like I said, my opening remark regards to, I say it's neither here or there. They are all both schools of thought. They are all both perspective to it. You cannot insert, but you can move. You still have powers to move.
Yes,
now,
to adjust.
Now, let's look it from this perspective that this is lawmaking, appropriation bill. It's still the word clause bill is there. They have powers to change yes, new, shall. Those are the works. So the same, they can change project from Uguta to Aguleri.
Yes. They can move it.
They can also say that Aguleri people don't need that electricity. What they need is road. It's the same. So they can insert. That means they've inserted. Maybe they actually the executive proposed to build a road. And they say, no, these people don't need that road. What they need is electrification. Because they believe they are the representatives of the people. They are from the grassroots. And they are the constituents. They know what the people want. So that's why I say the argument is neither here nor there. executive will have sufficient reasons to support the argument. Likewise, the legislator will have sufficient reasons to. That's why the federal government, once any legislation is made, they has a right to sign it or not to sign it.
Exactly.
So I think it's how our constitution is designed. This one you have your power, this one you have your power. And most of them, like I use, I introduce a word here. What is the morality in all? No. All are to serve the people. Yes. Where is the morality?
So it's about playing politics with our economy.
Thank you.
Because the other issue, still on this appropriation bill 2020, appropriation act 20, but the president has said he was going to submit an amendment. Okay. Until then, it's still an act. The argument of some other people is, where is even the money to fund this thing? You have put over 6,000 new project. The one that the president even put as in 16 trillion.
You push
it's still going to be deficit budgeting.
Yes.
Now you have increased it to 17 trillion with additional 735 billion. Meanwhile, you have revenue shortfall as a result of a number of variables. So where is even the money to now pay for all of these projects? So if there is no funding, it's like a governor in South who some years ago decided to do budget of 1.3 trillion.
1.5.
The governor. I don't want to mention it. But the governor just thought budgeting is about grandstanding. So you say 1.3 trillion budget, but your state revenue is far less than even half of that amount. So on what basis are you increasing when there is a lot of deficit financing of even the previous budget vis-a-vis the current projections?
Revenue. Okay, I think let me answer it from this point. I often say that the 2022 fiscal budget is overtly ambitious.
Overtly ambitious.
Yes, quite overtly ambitious. And there's nothing bad about being ambitious, but the aspect is that you had an ambition that cannot be realized. Just like you pointed out, you had a deficit budget. Why are you actually increasing it?
Increasing the size.
What's the projection to have more revenue? What is all about budget? Budget is two ways. One, to take an aggregation of your revenue and also to calculate or to put down things that how to spend your revenue. That's what budget is. One, this side is to generate. This is my resources. This is how I'm going to earn A, B, C, D to whatever trillion I'm going to earn. And this is what I intend to spend on these very proceeds. Now you had a projection of 10.7 trillion in 2022 budget.
That's the revenue projection?
Yes, that's from the source, Ministry of Finance.
Okay.
The projection that they have in mind to collect from revenues from federal
oil and
non-oil sectors. This is what we are going to generate in 2022. And this is what we intend to spend. Yes, it's encouraging enough as a developing country because you can only stimulate your economy when you spend more. So it's good to, project that I can spend up to 17 trillion so that I can rejig or revive or stimulate your economy so that will be a growth, so that we can attend to that GDP growth we are projecting of 4% in our 2022 budget. Now, the truth remains when I use the word overtly. As a federal government, as a minister, as a budget preparer, that you have never, since the inception of this nation, earned up to 8 trillion naira, earned up to 7 trillion naira, earned up to, in 2015, the total revenue collection or revenue earned by federal government in 2019 was about 7.9 trillion. In 2020, it dropped to 7.4 trillion owing to COVID. Now, in 2022, we are yet to get the final data from all the parastatals, from all the revenue collecting agencies. But you cannot get up to more than 6 trillion or thereabout. Owing to the fact that you have devalued naira more than 2, 3, 4 trenches. So you earn more revenue as a result of devalued naira because the proceeds you get from crude, which is in dollars, when you devalue naira, it turns to more naira for you.
So the purchasing power is weaker.
It's weaker though. But the point is that because our budget is done in naira.
Why do we have to dollarize our budget?
We did not. But we have some component. That's why I say we have a mono economy. We have a benchmark of crude. Crude is sold in international market price. It doesn't have a naira value.
Does it have to be sold in dollars? Can't it be in euro? Can't it be in pounds?
No, because dollar is the international currency acceptable to the rest of the world. Even China have not done anything about to even project their own currency. China is the most source country, as in the country in the rest of the world that even US goes there to buy goods. So China have not done anything because dollar have taken that lead. So it will continue. That's why the European nation came together and make sure that Euro will also have its own strength. That's why they came together to see if we can bargain in international. So that has been done, and I think it will take ages for any other currency to act.
Okay, Steve, let's move away from this controversy over the budget. What are those things you see as the main challenges of our economy in 2022?
Yes, I think it is in the heaps of indices, all those parameters available in the budget. I keep saying you can only use the government. I may not be privy to other private entities their budget, because budget is, we will continue to look from that very side of the government, which is the highest spender. Those parameters, those indices, funds in the budget, how real are they? Let's start from the issue. The other day we have a report from Budget Dit that over 460 projects were found duplicated.
In the 2022 budget?
In 2022 budget, over 460. What, over 385 or thereabout billion naira. So these are the problems. In fact, from onset, the 2022 budget is already having problems. With the issue you talked about, that we have a shortfall, a deficit close to 7 trillion, 6.8 trillion you are having. And look at the size of the exposure of Nigeria in the debt market. We are absolutely using close to 100% of our revenue collection to service our debt. These are the challenges. Now, let's come back to the realities again. Like I do say, in 2019, in 2020, and 2021, federal government did borrow. 70 to 60% of those borrowed funds are all placed on moratorium. Moratorium is the same that they don't pay anything 2 years, 1 year before you start servicing those very borrowed funds. It means that the money they borrowed, some of the money they borrowed in 2019, and some they borrowed in 2020, and some they borrowed in 2021, they've not started issue of repayment.
So they'll start maturing for payment
this
in 2022.
2022, 2023, and onward. So it means that our debt servicing will increase. We are within the 3.5 or 3.6 trillion in our budget.
And part of the concerns raised by some economists and financial analysts is that we are using as much as our capital expenditure envelope to service debt. So if you are looking at capex, capital expenditure
of 5.5 trillion,
you are using almost
up to 3.4
to service debt.
So that's why I say that the indices, that's, you ask me how healthy is this, how prosperous.
But government is telling us that all our borrowings are within our debt to GDP ratio is tolerable, nothing to worry about. But people are not talking about debt to revenue.
No. Let me say this for the record purpose. What this government is actually not doing the best for us. I think they are running narratives that are making it very difficult to even understand governance. You see, when you model things up, when you complicate simple issues, when people are raising alarms that your debt profile is going high, you are talking about debt to GDP ratio. You are conflicting issues. They are two different issues.
So what should they be talking about?
You should be looking at your size of your economy when you're talking about your debt. You should be looking at your size of revenue collection. You cannot be borrowing above your revenue collection. You cannot be servicing your debts with over 100%. In fact, like I said, I'm trying to get to a point. I'm trying to analyze to a point before you interrupted.
No, go ahead.
What I'm actually trying to say is that if you had those borrowings of 219, 220, and 221 that most of them are having moratorium, you don't pay, there is no debt. It means that as of 2021, we had our debt to revenue to debt servicing about 97%. It means in this 2020 and 2023, you will be requiring more to service. It means that the 100 already is already concluded because we have 97. So it's just 3%. So it means when those debts you start servicing, you will not require. Look at the fears. Look at my fears. That it will not require federal government to borrow from Mr. A to service Mr. B. And that's the worst scenario. It's no longer borrow to do, I'm doing a project. You are now borrowing to go and pay another man that is owing you. You are borrowing from Mr. A or Mr. C to service this person. You go again, you borrow from this one to service another person. That is very, very precarious, and that would be the worst scenario we will get into. You are no longer borrowing to do acclaim project or elephant projects that you find yourself. You are now borrowing to serve it. Now, what confirms my fears is that you remember the finance bill of 2021 that he quickly sent to the National Assembly for amendment. They now changing the clause in the Fiscal Responsibility Act to allow them borrow, and they introduce the word of national strategic interest. But that's a clause they actually introduced, removing why the National Fiscal Responsibility Act forbids you as a government to borrow and do any other thing except capital expenditure. Because they know they have borrowed to a threshold, they've crossed the threshold that they will not require to borrow to service. They will quickly move. They have quickly moved to amend that clause, the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The law says that you cannot borrow as a government, both as a federal government, as a state government or local government, to do any other thing except capital projects. Now, because you know you have run into debt crisis, you now amend that clause to allow you and introduce an ambiguous and dubious word for national strategic interest. Meaning, if China wants to take away whatever because you are falling, no, let's borrow from UK to pay China, or let's borrow from Hong Kong to pay.
So the situation.
So that is the fears.
The situation, Steve, is like a man who is working, let's say in this office now. You have now borrowed your salary. You have collected salary in advance. So you now need to live day by day from borrowing from other colleagues in the office because you need to stay alive.
Exactly.
So, but let's come back to, let me ask you this. Are you worried that our debt portfolio can expose us to nationalization of some of our assets? I mean, takeover of some of our national assets, as has been expressed in some quarters that China took over the airport of a country in Africa.
Then it's not nationalization.
I mean,
it's neo-colonialism again. They were colonizing.
Neo-colonialism.
Thank you. That's simply what it means. Because if it's nationalization, you are selling it now, okay, to pay your debt. But this is, I'm taking over. Part of the clause is that if you fail to redeem your side of your own agreement, that will take possession. And China as a nation taking a possession of an asset in Nigerian soil means they are almost taking over you.
Your sovereignty.
Of course, if you take something like airports.
Do you have that fear that the way we are going,
of course,
it can get to that?
Of course, that's why I say that the federal government quickly requested, in this December, quickly requested the National Assembly to amend so that they can know, because their hands are tied with the existing law, that you cannot borrow to do any other thing than a capital project. They now introduced that word I said dubious of strategic national interest.
Okay.
No, it means that we are in danger now. Please,
before I forget this, because you know I don't have any questions written down. So sorry if I'm interjecting you.
Don't worry,
The issue again is federal government wants to borrow from the pension fund. Is that appropriate?
I wouldn't say it's not appropriate, because federal government can extend to any available resources. But all we are saying, you do it to, you should have a threshold. The truth is that this government is so patent for borrowing. I don't know whether the kind of policies they formulate, policy formula A is borrow. Policy formula B is borrow.
Okay, what are the alternatives if you don't want them to borrow?
Thank you, fantastic. And which I think a couple of them are also springing up a bit, but they are not being visible. Open your tax net. Currently, our tax net is about 6%.
Of the entire population?
Yes, it's about 6%. Widen it, open it, so that we have more people coming into the tax net. But not to bring that, debt or tax burden on existing taxpayers. And that's what they are actually doing. They are actually focusing only on the existing taxpayers. Open it up means that you open up your economy, stimulating the economy, more people will come into the tax net. That is the best way of raising revenue.
No, but
then, let me say it again. The issue that regards to improving in your spending efficiency. I think that's the only big challenge we have. I think we should even tackle that before taxing Nigeria.
How do you mean?
Improving in your spending or funding efficiency implies that, look at these elephant projects. In economies, the understanding we have about investment and establishing projects is that it will have a multiplier effect.
Spiral effect.
On the rest of other chains of other sectors. Now you embark on frivolous elephant-wide projects. That's what sometimes we call it using economic.
White elephant.
White elephant project, in the sense that, yeah, they look so beautiful. Having a red trail lane from what do you call it, from Kanu to Kaduna to Kanu, and to the one to just imagine, and you're expanding trillions or billions of dollars in that project. And what impact will it have? How many people move in those axes? And you left the right things undone, stimulating economy by opening up. We have a lot of deficit in housing. If federal government throws 2 trillion in housing sector, it's going to do a lot. It's going to open up the economy. It's going to empower. The disposable income of Nigerians is going to be enriched. So these are the areas they should have thrown in money.
Let me, before I forget, sorry to, because we don't have the luxury of much time. You are a stockbroker.
Yes.
How is our exchange, the Nigeria Stock Exchange, how is it performing? Is it satisfactory, or what are the areas of improvement you are taking up?
Yes, as a player in the nation's capital market, a trader, Nigerian stock market is actually doing its best, in the sense that it's a reflection, it's a mirror of the economy. We are not living in isolation. As in Nigeria, all quoted are all Nigerian companies. Nigerian breweries is quoted, their Guinness is quoted, their international MTN, they are all Nigerian based. So it's the aggregate of the activities that you find that being quoted. So the profits they make and the rest is actually what reflects in the economy.
What actually is stockbroking? Not many Nigerians understand. We talk about treasury bill, bonds, shares and all of that. In 2 minutes, can you walk us through what all of that
Yeah,
means?
well, 2 minutes cannot, but let me try my best. What an atypical stockbroker does is just to, it stands more like an intermediary between you as an investor and the exchange. Now, the exchange, why the word plus exchange, is where you will come and exchange what you have. Now, it's a platform where, as an existing company, even as a private company, you know there is allocation of shares and units of shares of your company you have. Just also like you can come there and float bond. You can come there and, sell your treasure bills. These are all tradable equities that tradable you can come to the market and play along. So now, as a stock, you are quoted company and someone wants to buy your company shares. What a stockbroker does is standing as an intermediary to buy or sell for those investors. Have in mind that you as an investor directly you cannot actually come to the market yourself to perform that very activity. That's why the stockbroker stands as an intermediary, a person standing between you to actually do this transaction. So as an exchange, it serves as an opportunity, a platform where you can come and offer what you have. That's what the exchange stands for. So when NTN is floated, or when NTN is introduced, or when NTN is listed, it simply means that NTN has been given opportunity, Nigerians have been given opportunity to
buy into the shares.
Yes, to be co-owners of this very company.
Okay, Steve,
and that can only be done through the exchange.
The number to call is 0809 987 1989. It will be, it's already on your screen. Please call in. We are discussing the economy of Nigeria in 2022. What are the challenges and what are the prospects? While we wait for the call, Steve, the issue of inflation, headline inflation, is increasing. Poverty is increasing. Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world, and our unemployment rate is put at 3.3%. What impact would this have on the economy of Nigeria in 2022?
Yes, so I think this question would have been best answered by those in government, those agents of government, from the Ministry of Finance to the Planning to Ministry of Commerce and Industry. What actually are they doing? Having these very statistics, very ugly statistics, reading, what are you actually doing to actually put Nigerian back to their workplaces? But let me, if I may suggest to them, it has to do with...
Let me pick this first call. Okay. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Move away from your TV set, please.
Okay. My name is Abubakar.
Yes, Abubakar, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from...
Oh, we lost that call. Abubakar, do call back. We are discussing the economy, Nigeria economy in 2022, challenges and prospects. So
let me progress in my line of thought. Now it call on these very physical decision makers to put up good policies that will support this economy, that will drive the required growth that we needed. And you can only do that when you have empathy for these millions of Nigerians that are unemployed.
Okay, let me pause you there. Yes, good morning. Oh, maybe we need our engineers to work on the line. The network doesn't seem to be okay. Anyway, sorry.
So it takes you to be empathetic to the sufferings of Nigeria. And what have aggravated these very sufferings, or have dragged our disposable income to this very mode that we are, is only but insecurity.
Yes, so that's a huge challenge. Apart from COVID-19, you are now highlighting insecurity as another major challenge.
Exactly. Nigerians are becoming fugitive in their own land. Nigerians are fugitives in their own land, on the run on daily basis. If you go to those very areas and minorities in the north central, northeast, and northwest, you find, even in the southeast, in the south, you have the southeast, the IPOB issue. People are very insecure, sit at home today, sit at home the other day. You have in the south, the Niger Delta militant. You have in the Yoruba nation or Duduwa. You come back to north, where you literally see bandits, ruling and governing some communities or some territories in those areas. These are realities. Nigerians have become fugitives in their own nation, fugitive in their own land. Nigerians are leaving their ancestral homes. And most of these areas that are being affected, they are agrarian in nature, and they have left their ancestral homes, and they cannot be able to farm and raise revenues to support themselves. Now the point is there is a multi-dimensional poverty displayed in this very insecurity, of the issue of insecurity in most of these areas, in the sense that most of this community cannot access education, they cannot access the classroom, they cannot access health cares or hospitals. They don't even have that disposable income to turn to the aggregation of the disposable income for Nigerians so that the GDP of Nigeria will grow. Because it's when you have, when you earn, you can spend, and the GDP of Nigeria will rise up.
Okay, so we lost that call. Let's look at what alternatives do we have to borrowing. Some school of thought have said, let me pick this call, sorry. Hello? Good morning, please move away from your TV set. Tell us your name and where you are calling from.
My name is Samuel.
Your name is Uba?
I'm calling from Papi.
Okay, Uba from Papi. What's your question and comment?
Samuel from Papi.
Okay, Samuel from Papi, yes.
We are talking about what is happening today, the challenge we are having today. Number one, we have insecurity. Then what is the problem again there is that this, what they call it, election is about around the corner. And what is happening now is that this now they are trying to prove that they are trying to fight against insecurity. Meanwhile, things have been happening for a long time, nobody is caring for it. Then another issue now is this issue of COVID-19. When palliative came out, nobody forced anybody to give palliative. But when it's coming to vaccination, they are forcing people to give vaccination. It has been done in other countries, other sides. Discover that people are giving people palliative. People they care. But now they are trying to say that they care for people.
Okay.
So those things, they have to look into those things.
Thank you very much, Samuel. Your point is well noted. Samuel is raising concern about security, COVID-19, and palliatives. Yeah. The palliatives did not go around, but they are forcing people to take vaccine. So let's look at. I was going to ask this issue of alternative to borrowing to fund our budget. That can't we sell some of those white elephants you mentioned? Those projects, sell them off and use the proceeds to fund the critical sector, the critical projects.
Yes, I think I listened to the Honorable Minister of Finance, and he made mention. In fact, is there in our 2022 budget that part of the proceeds, part of these resources to fund the 2022 budget to sell some of our national assets, proceeds from the sales of some of our national assets. In the sense, for me, because I'm not a proponent of the schools of thought that believe that you have to sell your national
But this is not national asset we are talking. We are talking of white elephant, like projects that are under construction that have been abandoned.
Yes, if
we sell those ones
put up a
and use
presidential team that could go around the nation and look at those projects that have been abandoned and find out if those they can sell, those they can raise money to fund budget, that's okay. But the equation is not just this very sell or borrowing, and it's a question of being prudent with what you have.
So the reduction in cost of governance.
Yes, that's when I say when you have to improve in the spending efficiency. There are a lot of frivolities in this very budget. I made mention of over 460 projects that have been found duplicated. These are the things I say. If the government can reduce the cost of governance, reduce the cost. There are Steve Oresanian's report on these multiplicities of these agencies. If you can find a way and bring those ones that have dual responsibilities.
But there has been a presidential order on that, and that they should be implemented.
You have to be serious. That same strength, that same energy you used to run to debt market, use this to look inwards and find ways to amalgamate.
The president is doing, under this administration, we are seeing issue of tax credits for projects. So Dangote, MTN, they are doing roads, and the money they should pay as tax, they will use it to offset the cost of doing it.
It has been in existence, but these are innovative ways of executing projects.
Exactly.
It's the same of your resources. The word there is tax credit. We are tax. Who owns tax? Who actually is entitled to tax? Is federal government. Now is a credit to you because you are being allowed to use that tax that you ought to have paid government to build those roads. in advance. So let's assume in 2022 you are supposed to pay federal government a 1 billion naira tax, and you said, okay, this road that leads to my factory, I will use this 1 billion. Federal said, okay, use it. That's what.
So for that period that you recoup your investment, you will not pay tax.
You will not pay tax.
Okay, let's go, because our time is on. It's gone. Let's look at the agri revolution that this administration is claiming. Yesterday, the president unveiled the biggest rice pyramid in Africa. 13 of them, 115 bags. No, I mean the bags that form each of those pyramids are 115,000, and they said it's over 1 million. It's the biggest rice pyramid in Africa. And if you listen to what was said at that event yesterday, the president said the Anchor Brewers program has given job to 4.8 million Nigerian farmers, and that they have been able to increase the rice farming from 4 million metric tons that they made to 7.5 metric tons within the lifespan of this administration. 7.5
double.
From 4 to 7.5. So now that's the rice pyramid you are seeing there.
Yes.
So shouldn't we commend the president for this anchor? They said under the Anchor Borers program, 1 trillion has been given to 4.8 million farmers. And
let me start from a positive note. Seeing even the pyramids is so beautiful.
Yes, it's very beautiful, isn't it?
Such a beautiful pyramids. But the truth is that where is the realities of these pyramids we are talking? When you are talking about creating jobs, when you are talking about more farmers, when you are talking about increasing your metric tons and all the rest, the reality from me as an economist and who plays in the economy, what is the cost of an average bag of rice in the market? These are shows. These are political shows.
Hello. Let me pause you. Hello. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Yeah. Your name and where you are calling from, please.
My name is Anthony, calling you from Abuja here.
Your name is what? I didn't get that. Please move away from your TV set.
I'm away from it. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
My name is Mr. Anthony, calling you from Abuja here.
Okay, Anthony from Abuja here. Your question very quickly, 30 seconds.
Okay, please. My question I want to ask is the issue of what you call the party. Has it gone completely? Because government locked us inside the house almost 2 months. Indebted us. I went and collected money from this online app called Fair Money and all this, and then lost my job during that time, and then I've not paid Fair Money till today, and then the money is increasing. Fair Money is increasing the money every day for interest. So where is this issue of quality? Are they not going to give us they should let us know completely? So all the billions they mentioned, where are this money? Where are they? Has the money gone, or issue of quality is gone?
Okay, Anthony, that is well noted. I can feel your pain. All right.
We know how the direction we are going.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you. Tony is talking about whether.
Okay, let me speak from the use of the worries or the fears of Anthony and his predicaments. I think when I use the word improve in spending efficiency, it also boils down to be that empathetic to your people. You cannot be driving a convoy while people like this are there. They are looking for one.
They've lost their jobs.
That's being empathetic. A leader should have that empathy to govern his people, the feelings of his people. We are talking about the pyramids, and we are asking, and my question is, what is the cost of an average bag of rice in the market? This is what the kind of news we needed to hear, not the pyramids. Pyramids are shows. Who gathered there? And the funniest part of it, who organizes? Central Bank of Nigeria. Central Bank of Nigeria that should be handling the issue of the monetary policies is now ultimately turning to the Federal Ministry of Agriculture. The advert I saw about that program, I never saw the Ministry of Agriculture or the minister signing it. You can understand from the physical side, we are not seeing very good policies that will stimulate or grow the economy. Now the question is, how empathic this administration is to the plight of Nigerians. That's why most times when I suggest, I do suggest and I do say it, boldly say it. If you're empathetic enough, you should be concerned. By now, federal government or President Muhammadu Buhari should be setting up a committee, a special committee or a task force team, that the only sole responsibility of that task force team is to make sure that the price of equities or price of items are controlled. Meet captains of industries. I keep using instances of cement. Why would a bag of cement be selling above 4,000 naira when the 90 to 80% of the resources or the material required to produce it is found in our soil? Meet these captains of industries.
Yes, your name and where you are calling from, very quickly.
Yeah, hello.
Please speak loud.
Yeah, my name is Musa.
Okay, Musa, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Pape.
Okay, Musa from Pape.
Yes. I just want to say this. The government has never been sincere to its citizens in respect to economic growth and otherwise. So I wish they start becoming truthful to tell us their meaningful to tell us what they really are up to in terms of providing services for us and making life better. So it shouldn't just end up in telling citizens what you want to do that you really don't mean to do.
Thank you very much, Musa.
Yeah. So
sincerity on the part of government is needful. Thank you very much. We appreciate your call. That will be the much we can take from our call segment. Your final was Steve, as you depart. What do you think government needs to do different? What's the prospect of Nigeria's economy in 2022?
If I may suggest to government, the only thing they need to is to improve in funding and spending efficiency, and they can only do that when they're empathic, when they are so concerned about the plights of Nigeria. Like I said, they should by now set up a task force, a federal presidential task force that will meet captains of industry, for those selling rice, for those selling cement, for those selling other consumable items. Talk with them that my people are suffering. But
how do you want to do price control when the cost of doing business is very high?
That's the point I'm saying. The government generates policies. They generate rules. They generate how the market is played. Yes, we are running a free capital economy where prices are determined by the force of demand and supply. But most of these force of demand and supplies are manipulated, in the sense that most of the output or input, which most of these companies suggest where their prices should be selling, are artificial. Government should be looking into those things. Where do I need to assist to, so that this price of item that being consumed by Nigerians comes down? This is where I need this government to be doing something. If they are empathic enough to the sufferings of Nigerians, those food items, those items are being sold ridiculously in the market. Presidential, I think there is an agency called PPP
has gone with the
as in PPPC, as in consumer protection stuff.
Yes, consumer protection, but
anyway, agency should be seeing work in this time.
That will be the size of our intervention in this first segment. I want to thank you, Steve Nwachukwu, for coming on the show. I know I can feel your emotion and what you think the government needs to do. We'll still be taking call, but we want Steve to exit. He has other engagements, and we can't keep him here perpetually. But I'm very, very grateful for coming on the show to shed light on what government needs to do. I hope when next we call you, you oblige us to come on the show.
Thank you so much.
Do have a great year and a great day. And regards. So we'll be back in a bit.